Hello viewers. In this video, I'm sharing latest Windows Server interview questions and its answers which are being asked in year 2024. Keep watching my videos for latest updates in interview patterns. Subscribe to my channel and click on notification bell for latest video updates. Let's begin with the video.
Question 31. How to troubleshoot DNS server? Answer. Below are the points we can consider to troubleshoot DNS issues. 1. Run ipconfig all at a command prompt and verify the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. 2. Flush the resolver cache. To do this, run dnscmd/clear cache. 3. Run ns lookup with name and IP address of the DNS server and check for any error response. If the resolver returns the IP address of the client, the server does not have any problems. If the resolver returns a server failure or query refused response, then the zone is probably paused or the server is possibly overloaded. You can learn whether it's paused by checking the General tab of the zone properties in the DNS console. 4. If the resolver returns a request to server timed out or no response from server response, the DNS service probably is not running. Try to restart the DNS server service by entering the following at a command prompt on the server net start DNS. 5. If request to server timed out or no response from server response issue occurs when the service is running, the server might not be listening on the IP address that you used in your ns lookup query. On the Interfaces tab of the Server Properties page in the DNS console, administrators can restrict a DNS server to listen on only selected addresses. If the DNS server has been configured to limit service to a specific list of its configured IP addresses, it's possible that the IP address that's used to contact the DNS server is not in the list. You can try a different IP address in the list or add the IP address to the list. 6. Check the event logs to see whether there are any recorded errors. Check in Application, System, DNS Server Container. 7. Check the DNS port 53 is open and server is reachable on the port 53. Use Telnet for it. 8. Check whether the server that returns the incorrect response is a primary server for the zone or a server that's hosting a secondary copy of the zone. 9. If the server is a primary server, the problem might be caused by user error when users enter data into the zone. Or, it might be caused by a problem that affects Active Directory replication or dynamic update. 10. If the server is hosting a secondary copy of the zone, then examine the zone on the primary server, the server from which this server pulls zone transfers. If the name is correct on the primary server, check whether the serial number on the primary server is less than or equal to the serial number on the secondary server. If it is, modify either the primary server or the secondary server so that the serial number on the primary server is greater than the serial number on the secondary server. On the secondary server, force a zone transfer from within the DNS console or by running the following command. dnscmd/zone refresh zone name. Examine the secondary server again to see whether the zone was transferred correctly. If not, we probably have a zone transfer problem. For more information, see Zone Transfer Problems. 11. For zone transfer problems, check Event Viewer for both the primary and secondary DNS server. Check the primary server to see whether it's refusing to send the transfer for security. Check the Zone Transfers tab of the Zone Properties in the DNS console. If the server restricts zone transfers to a list of servers, such as those listed on the Name Servers tab of the Zone Properties, make sure that the secondary server is on that list. Make sure that the server is configured to send zone transfers. 12. Checking for recursion problems. For recursion to work successfully, all DNS servers that are used in the path of a recursive query must be able to respond and forward correct data. If they can't, a recursive query can fail for any of the following reasons. The query times out before it can be completed. A server that's used during the query fails to respond. A server that's used during the query provides incorrect data. Start troubleshooting at the server that was used in your original query. Check whether this server forwards queries to another server by examining the Forwarders tab in the Server Properties in the DNS console. If the Enable Forwarders checkbox is selected, and one or more servers are listed, this server forwards queries. 13. If this server does not forward queries to another server, test whether this server can query a root server. To do this, run the following command. nslookup, hit enter. Server. IP address of server being examined. Hit enter. Set q equals ns. Hit enter. If the resolver returns the IP address of a root server, you probably have a broken delegation between the root server and the name or IP address that you are trying to resolve. If the resolver returns a request to server timed out response, check whether the root hints point to functioning root servers. 14. Test a broken delegation. Begin the tests in the following procedure by querying a valid root server. The test takes you through a process of querying all the DNS servers from the root down to the server that you are testing for a broken delegation. At the command prompt on the server that you are testing, enter the following. nslookup, hit enter. Server space server IP address, hit enter. Set space no recursion, hit enter. Set space query type equals resource record type, hit enter. fqdn, hit enter. Note, resource record type is the type of resource record that you were querying for in your original query, and fqdn is the fqdn for which you were querying. If the response includes a list of ns and a resource records for delegated servers, repeat nslookup query for each server and use the IP address from the a resource records as the server IP address. If the response does not contain an ns resource record, you have a broken delegation. If the response contains ns resource records, but no a resource records, enter set recursion and query individually for a resource records of servers that are listed in the ns records. If you do not find at least one valid IP address of an A resource record for each NS resource record in a zone, you have a broken delegation. If you determine that you have a broken delegation, fix it by adding or updating an A resource record in the parent zone by using a valid IP address for a correct DNS server for the delegated zone. 15. View the current root hints. Start the DNS console. Add or connect to the DNS server that failed a recursive query. Right-click the server and select Properties. Click Root Hints. Check for basic connectivity to the root servers. If root hints appear to be configured correctly, verify that the DNS server that's used in a failed name resolution can ping the root servers by IP address. If the root servers do not respond to pinging by IP address, the IP addresses for the root servers might have changed. However, it's uncommon to see a reconfiguration of root servers. Question 32. How to troubleshoot DHCP issues? Answer. Troubleshoot DHCP clients. For DHCP clients, check the following devices and settings. Cables are connected and working. MAC filtering is enabled on the switches to which the client is connected. The network adapter is enabled. The correct network adapter driver is installed and updated. The DHCP client service is started and running. To check this, run the net start command and look for DHCP client. There is no firewall blocking ports 67 and 68 UDP on the client computer. Data collection. Before contacting Microsoft support, you can gather information about your issue. TSS PowerShell script must be run by accounts with administrator privileges on the local system, and EULA must be accepted. Once EULA is accepted, TSS won't prompt again. Download TSS on all nodes and unzip it in the C:/TSS folder. Open the C:/TSS folder from an elevated PowerShell command prompt. Start the traces on the client and the server by using the following cmdlets. tss.ps1 -scenario net_dhcp CLI for client. tss.ps1 -scenario net_dhcp SRV for server. DHCP server troubleshooting checklist. The DHCP server service is started and running. To check this setting, run the net start command and look for DHCP server. B. The DHCP server is authorized. See Windows DHCP server authorization in domain joint scenario. C. Verify that IP address leases are available in the DHCP server scope for the subnet the DHCP client is on. To verify availability, see the statistic for the appropriate scope in the DHCP server management console. D. Check whether any bad address listings can be found in address leases. E. Check whether any devices on the network have static IP addresses that haven't been excluded from the DHCP scope. F. Verify that the DHCP server binds to at least one IP address and that this IP address is within the subnet of the scopes from which IP addresses must be leased out, unless using DHCP relay. To do this verification, run the get-DHCP server v4 binding or get-DHCP server v6 binding cmdlet. Server connection bindings are configured in the DHCP server management console under IPv4 or IPv6 advanced properties. G. Verify that only the DHCP server is listening on UDP port 67 and 68 by running the netstat-rnb command. No other process or other services, such as WDS or PXE, should occupy these ports. H. Verify that the DHCP server IPsec exemption is added if you are dealing with an IPsec deployed environment. I. Verify that the relay agent IP address can be pinged from the DHCP server. J. Enumerate and check configured DHCP policies and filters. K. Additionally, check the system and DHCP server service event logs at Applications and Services logs. Go to Microsoft, go to Windows, go to DHCP server for reported issues. A DHCP relay agent IP helper to send DHCP broadcast requests to a different network segment. DHCP server logs are located by default at %windir%/system32/DHCP. DHCP server logs are delimited text files with each log entry representing a single line of text. Following are the fields and the order in which they appear in a log file entry. ID, date, time, description, IP, address, host name, MAC address. Pause video and check below image for reference. In this sample, the DHCP server could not be authorized when initially started and is subsequently stopped. After it is authorized, the server is then able to start and service clients. Question 33. How to configure DHCP failover? Answer. Create a DHCP server by installing DHCP role and authorize the DHCP server. Create a DHCP scope. The cluster cannot be created unless a DHCP scope exists. Let's create a simple scope to start. Log on to the first DHCP server. Launch the Server Manager console. On the top right, click Tools. Select DHCP from the Tools drop-down menu. From the DHCP tree on the left of the console, expand the node named after the server. Select the IPv4 node by clicking it. Right-click the IPv4 node and then select New Scope. Go through the New Scope wizard to create the new scope. Create the failover cluster using below points. 1. From within the DHCP console, right-click the IPv4 node of the DHCP server tree on the left side. 2. Click Configure Failover from the IPv4 context menu. 3. When the Configure Failover dialog box appears, select from the available scopes that you wish to have in the cluster. If you want to include all of them, check the Select All box. You can create multiple partner relationships with other DHCP servers. This allows you to create clusters between all of your remote site DHCP servers and a central head office server. 4. Click Next. 5. Click Add Server to add the DHCP partner server. Alternatively, you can enter its IP address or fully qualified domain name into the text field. 6. Click Next. 7. On the Create a New Failover Relationship screen, give the cluster relationship a name. 8. Set the maximum client lead time value using hours and minutes. This sets the maximum amount of time a partner DHCP server can extend a lease to a client after the owner of the scope fails. This also sets how long the partner DHCP will wait for the failed owner before taking full control of the scope. 9. From the Mode drop-down menu, select Hot Standby. Selecting Standby creates a fault-tolerant failover cluster. The other option, Load Balance, creates a load balance cluster for increased performance. 10. From the Role of Partner Server drop-down, select Standby. This makes the current server the active cluster node and second server the passive node. 11. Set how many of the scope addresses will be reserved for the standby server in percentages. 12. In the Shared Secret text field, enter a complex password that will be used by the servers. This ensures that only servers who know the password can communicate in the cluster. 13. Click Next. 14. Verify your settings and then click Finish. 15. Log on to the second DHCP server. 16. Launch the DHCP console and verify that the scope we created on the first DHCP server has been replicated to the second server. Pause video and check below image for reference. Question 34. How to backup and restore DHCP server? Answer. By default, Windows will backup the DHCP configuration every 60 minutes at this location %systemroot %system32 /DHCP /backup. Manual DHCP backup using DHCP console. Open the DHCP administration console. Right-click the server and select Backup. Pause video and check below image for reference. Restore DHCP server using DHCP console. Note, you must copy the backup folder from the steps above to %systemroot %system32 /DHCP /backup or you will get the error saying the database was not restored correctly. Copy the DHCP backup to the correct location %systemroot %system32 /DHCP /backup. On the DHCP console, right-click the server and select Restore. Pause video and check below image for reference. You will get a message that says the service must be stopped and restarted. Click Yes. Restore complete. Backup DHCP server using PowerShell. Backup-DHCP server, path C:\DHCP backup. For local computer. Backup-DHCP server, computer name, DHCP1, path C:\DHCP white space backup. For remote computer. Restore DHCP server using PowerShell. Restore-DHCP server, computer name, DHCP2 path C, Windows/System32/DHCP/backup. Question 35. How to decommission DC server and cleaning metadata? Answer. Demote a domain controller using Server Manager. Step 1. Open Server Manager. Step 2. Select Manage Go to remove roles and features. Step 3. On the server selection page, select the server you want to demote and click the Next button. Step 4. Uncheck Active Directory Domain Services on the Server Roles page. When you uncheck, you will get a pop-up to remove features that require Active Directory Domain Services. Window will prompt you to demote DC server before removing ADDS. Step 5. Select Demote this domain controller. On the next screen, make sure you do not select Force the removal of this domain controller. You should only select this if you are removing the last domain controller in the domain. Click Next. Step 6. On the warnings screen, it will give you a warning this server hosts additional roles. If you have client computers using this server for DNS, you will need to update them to point to a different server since the DNS role will be removed. Check the box Proceed with Removal and click Next. Step 7. If you have DNS delegation, you can select Remove DNS delegation and click Next. In most cases, you will not have DNS delegation and can uncheck this box. Step 8. Now put in the new administrator password. This will be for the local administrator account on this server. Step 9. Review options and click Demote. When you click Demote, the server will be demoted and rebooted. Once it reboots, the server will be a member server. You can log in with domain credentials to the server. Metadata cleanup steps. Step 1. Open Active Directory sites and services and remove the server. Just right-click on it and delete it. Pause video and check below image for reference. Step 2. On another domain controller, open Active Directory users and computers, go to the domain controllers folder. Right-click the domain controller you want to remove and click Delete. Pause video and check below image for reference. Note: there is an alternate way to do the metadata cleanup by using ntdsutil command, although this is not needed if server operating system is 2008 or above. Question 36. How to add new domain controller in existing domain? Answer. Let's go step by step and add new domain controller to existing domain. Step 1. Prepare forest and domain by using below commands. adprep /forest prep. This command need to run on domain controller holding schema master FSMO role as it extends schema and prepares AD for DC upgrade, adprep /domain prep. This command need to run on domain controller holding infrastructure master FSMO role to prepares AD for DC upgrade. Step 2. Raise forest functional level. After you set the forest functional level to a certain value, you can't roll back or lower the forest functional level, with the following exceptions. If you are upgrading from Windows Server 2012 R to forest functional level, you can roll back to Windows Server 2012 R2. If you are upgrading from Windows Server 2008 R to forest functional level, you can roll back to Windows Server 2008 R2. Step 3. Raise domain functional level. After you set the domain functional level to a certain value, You can't roll back or lower the domain functional level, with the following exceptions. Note the exception. When you raise the domain functional level to Windows Server 2016, and if the forest functional level is Windows Server 2012 or lower, you have the option of rolling the domain functional level back to Windows Server 2012 or Windows Server 2012 R2. Step 4. Join the new Windows Server to your forest. Restart when you are prompted. Step 5. In Server Manager, under Add Roles and Features, install Active Directory Domain Services on the new Windows Server. This action automatically runs at prep on the earlier version forest and domain. Step 6. In Server Manager, select Promote the server to a domain controller. Step 7. On the Deployment Configuration screen, select Add a new domain to an existing forest and select Next. Step 8. On the Domain Controller Options screen, enter the Directory Services Restore Mode (DSRM) password and select Next. For the rest of the screens, select Next. Step 9. On the Prerequisite Check screen, select Install. After the restart has completed, sign in again. Configuring new domain controller completed. Stay tuned in for next upcoming video series of recent interview questions asked by interviewers in 2024. All the best for your interview. We will help you to be prepared with latest unexpected question series, and you will be able to answer them successfully.